Well, our correspondent Amritpal Singh is standing by and he's joining us from Johannesburg right now. Amrit, so the theme this year is solidarity, equality and sustainability. Clearly a theme, deeply associated with the Global South, and we just saw your report. But, to what extent is the Global South isolating the Global North in the G20?
Could you repeat the last part of your
I
question,
said,
Mark?
to what extent is the Global South isolating the Global North in in the G20?
Okay, I wouldn't say the Global South is isolating the Global North at G20, but what it is trying to, get across to the Global North is that the priorities or concerns of the developed world, or what is called as Global North, cannot dictate the global agenda, because majority of the population resides in what we call the Global South, and it is to them, it is for them that the world needs to work together. And that's why the theme of solidarity, equality and sustainability, because issues like climate change, issues like disaster risk reduction are something, global warming are something that affects the world equally. So, the brunt of it is borne more by the developing countries or the Global South, because, there is where the people, do not have access to, say, world-class healthcare. There is massive poverty in the Global South. Development lags behind. The resources are not there. Even to fight climate change, technology is not there. So to end this kind of a divide, the technological divide, the access to opportunities, so that is what the Global South is trying to assert at the G20, that the G20 may be a grouping of the biggest 20 economies of the world, but they really need to come together to work in tandem, hand in hand for the person who is standing in the last in the queue. So it is that what the Global South is trying to tell the Global North, and now G20 as a grouping, I could say, for the past 4 presidencies have been with the Global South. Next year it goes back to the United States, because a cycle of 20 G20s have been completed by the Johannesburg Summit. So the Global South is far more assertive, and India, may I mention that India has led from the forefront and emerged as a leader of the Global South, which countries of the developing world or the emerging economies look up to.
Right, Amrit, you do mention about how the next presidency is that of the United States. To what extent has the United States participated in the Troika in this last year in preparations for the summit agenda, with things like debt sustainability, disaster resilience, climate and the like under the Trump presidency?
The very fact that the United States chose to boycott this conference speaks about how under the Trump presidency, the kind of importance they attach to multilateral institutions, especially like the G20, which are broad-based. And this is something which countries like India have been saying for a very long time, that global institutions need reform. Though there is lip service to commitment to shared goals like climate change, etc., but under the Trump presidency, we do not see the kind of push that was expected from a global leader like the United States to the concerns, to the aspirations of that part of the world where majority of the population arises or lives, and also the fact that these are issues of common concern. So that seems lacking, at least from the United States, if not the whole of the West, because the rest of the leaders are here to participate in the G20. So G20 goes on, as South African presidency has already said, that it goes on despite the United States boycotting this conference.
Right, and let's look at, the Global South has brought forth a very inclusive agenda over the last 4 presidencies. And now the U.S. will take over, and there's a lot of speculation as to what the U.S. is likely to put forward as its own agenda. One would think trade, because the US president is dominant. I mean, that's his dominant thought, trade and tariffs. But AI, which is also part of this agenda, could be carried forward. So to what extent are we seeing some sort of, let's say, a meeting of minds on the key issues such as artificial intelligence moving forward?
Well, there is a meeting of minds on, artificial intelligence. There is meeting of minds on, critical rare earth minerals. But what the Global South is basically trying to put across, and which could be reflected in the Johannesburg Declaration, because there is a session tomorrow on critical minerals and AI, and the presidency of South Africa is pushing forward towards taking a more inclusive approach when it comes to finishing the technological divide, when it comes to storage of big data, the use of big data, etc. So in principle, there is a meeting of minds, but what remains to be done is actions need to be taken on the ground by these countries. Now, these declarations which are adopted are, by consensus, but and what is not agreed upon is generally left out of the declaration. But clearly, it's not binding on those countries. So to go back, and so we've seen them stop short of actually fulfilling the commitments they make at such conferences,
Right.
Mark. So that is where the gap remains. But yes, there is a in principle meeting of minds on the issues you mentioned, Mark.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Amritpal Singh, for joining us from Johannesburg.